We are live in North York tonight, where a vigil will be held to remember the victims of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel.
The attack triggered the ongoing war in Gaza. We're also live at Queen's Park. This is where a pro-Palestinian rally is being held.
And an apparent act of road rage. 2 people are in hospital tonight after they were chased and shot before eventually crashing their car. We'll tell you more about what happened.
And a man has been charged with attempted murder in what police are calling a random attack at the Oakville GO Station.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. Vigils and commemorations are being held around the world today to mark 1 year since Israel was attacked by Hamas, triggering the war in Gaza.
And here in Toronto, the UJA Federation is holding a memorial service tonight. CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live from North York with more. Melissa.
Yeah, Bakari, preparations underway right now to host what organizers say might be 15,000, 20,000 people who will be gathering here at what's being called October 7th, marking 1 year, the memorial. We're going to be seeing a local community coming together to remember that tragedy that happened 1 year ago. Certainly those feelings just so raw for so many still 1 year later. I'm joined with Sarah Lefton. She's with the UJA Federation. And we've been watching the sound check getting ready. We've been watching the performers prepare for their songs here today. It's going to be a moving gathering.
Yeah, it's going to be a very meaningful moment for us as a community and with our allies to come together to mark this incredibly important date. For us, you're right, it's not just that it's raw, it's that it's still ongoing. We have to remember even tonight that there are more than 100 hostages who are still being held captive in Gaza by Hamas. And so the situation is not over. We're not remembering. We're sitting here and marking the anniversary, but it is a live situation.
What can we expect this evening? I know there's going to be a candle lighting ceremony taking place.
Yeah, we'll have a number of the family members from the hostage families. We'll have a number of people who have survived the attack on October 7th share their stories. There'll be a candle lighting where we can join together and really pray for peace in the year ahead, pray for the return of the hostages. And also we'll have a chance to hear from important voices and some of the allied voices who are standing with the Canadian Jewish community in this very, very challenging time, not just for Israelis, but for us as Canadian Jews.
And it's a reminder, too, that what's happening, on the other side of the world is really hitting so close to home for so many here. Tell us about some of the people who are going to be sharing their personal stories.
Yeah, I think that we have people who are from right here in Toronto who, I'll use myself as an example. We're trying to explain to our children why we are seeing and we are witnessing in our streets hate. We are driving downtown and we are seeing extremism here. And we're going to hear tonight from people who on the ground in Israel have faced rocket fire day after day after day. And even in the immediate days after October 7th, when they lost family members or when they had people who are still, again, being held captive by, in Gaza by Hamas. But we're also going to hear from a number of members of the Jewish community here who are struggling with how to explain to their children that while we live in Canada and we are proud Canadians as Jews, somehow when we go downtown, we're being faced with thousands and thousands of people who are now sharing extremist views that are very, very dangerous to us.
And speaking of those threats, we're talking about the preparations that are being made to get this evening going here, but we have to talk about the security. I'm looking around here. We see a lot of security personnel. I watched dogs do a sweep a few times here.
Yeah. Look, it's not beyond me that I can drive downtown and I can witness, again, or I can drive around the city and witness people who are yelling and screaming hateful things about Jewish Canadians and Jewish people, because let's not mistake it, it is absolutely about anti-Jewish hate. That's what this is. This is not about a conflict overseas. But when we come out onto our own campus, the Jewish community property, we have had to invest so much in community security and making sure that Jews can gather safely on our own property, not even out there downtown or in the city, at large. But We're very grateful to the Toronto Police for stepping up time and time again and making sure over the course of the year that the Jewish areas are protected, that Jewish schools are protected. They have done so much for our community, but it is sad and it's scary to see just how much we as a Jewish community have to do just to gather safely on our own property tonight.
Sarah Lefton with the UJA Federation, thanks so much for that. So again, the gathering getting started just a couple of hours from now, security tight. Again, expecting 15 to 20,000 people. Back to you inside.
All right, Melissa, thanks so much for this. Well, downtown, a pro-Palestinian rally is underway at Queen's Park with a march expected to follow. You're looking at pictures coming in from Chopper 24.
CP24, Steve Ryan is there and joins us live with more. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari, Alina, this demonstration started at 4 p.m. this afternoon, south side of Queen's Park, and it is a rally demonstration to support those in Palestine. It's a pro-Palestinian rally. There are many Palestinian flags flying in the parking lot here, and there are some Lebanese flags as well. I am told that the demonstration itself won't take place until 6 p.m., and this is still a gathering time while people make their way to Queen's Park. Now, on the other side, where I am right now on the east side, there are some counter-protesters. Perhaps you can see it from the chopper. And about half an hour ago, the police, significant police presence here, by the way, the police had to get in between both sides. So they had the public order unit facing one side of the demonstrators, the pro-Palestinian demonstrators, if you will, to the west, and then bicycle police were on the other side facing the pro-Israeli demonstrators to the east. And there were some harsh words exchanged between both groups. The police were able to settle that down, and there has been no acts of violence, that's for sure. A lot of words, a lot of emotion here at Queen's Park today, and again, plenty of police officers both around Queen's Park, on Queen's Park Circle itself, and throughout the downtown core as well. Now, we did speak to one of the advisors here at this rally today, and here's what he told us earlier on. So listen.
October 7th is a very sad day at the fact that we are here realizing it's been 365 days of constant killing, constant bombardment, constant forced evictions, constant murdering. There are millions displaced, and we are here to try to spread awareness as Palestinians that came and live in Canada.
That same guy told me that the demonstration itself will begin at 6 p.m., and that's when this large crowd, and there are two pickup trucks off to the side here on Queen's Park Circle facing southbound. They've got speakers on them and very large flags. They are going to lead this demonstration as it goes, I'm told, south on University Avenue, and most likely will wind up at City Hall at some point in time. Send it back to you guys.
Okay, CP24, Steve Ryan live at Queen's Park.
We want to check in now with those still reeling 1 year later. We first introduced you to Lynn Mitchell last year. Her friend, Vivian Silver, was a Canadian-Israeli peace activist. She was abducted and eventually killed by Hamas. Lynn Mitchell joins us live now. Thank you so much for making time for us. We are so grateful. We remember sitting down with you 10 months ago when you had learned that your childhood friend had been killed. It was a tremendous loss. I want to begin by asking you, a year later, how are you doing?
Well, thank you for Lena and Bakari for circling back to me, and for your ongoing interest in Vivian and now her legacy, not her fate, but her legacy. So I think in terms of how we are doing, there's two parts to the question. In terms of how we're doing, her friends and her family have had a very terrible year. There's been no end in sight to the violence and to the horror that's going on in the attack that caused her death. But there's also another part of the question, and that is what we are doing. And we are trying here. There's been a group of us all across Canada, a group of women who had connections with Vivian, but also some who were just taken with her voice and her message, who have started out of the despair and out of the misery of the past year and of the loss of Vivian, to organize a Women Wage Peace Canada support group. And we hope that, and I'm in charge of the group in Canada East. We now have chapters in Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto, London, Ontario, Montreal, and we're a very fledgling organization, but we're holding Vivian's message and her legacy close to our hearts, and we are hoping that the message of peace and nonviolence and a negotiated settlement to this misery can eventually take hold. So we're trying very hard to take that misery and turn it into something that can,
Ms. Mitchell,
equal her legacy.
Yeah.
Thank you again for taking time to speak with us. Your friend, Vivian Silver, was a lifelong peace activist who would help cancer patients in Gaza cross the border to get treatment in Israel. You mentioned that support group. Also, let's talk a little bit more about her life and legacy as it relates to that work.
Yes, well, I guess in the year that she's been gone, we've all been thinking, what would Vivian say? What would Vivian do? And I think what she would say and what she would do in terms of the answer to your question, in terms of her legacy, is don't give up. You have to have a negotiated settlement. We have to have two voices here. We have to have two narratives. We have to listen to each other. We have to have women at the negotiating table for a peace agreement. And we have to pressure our politicians, the Arab leaders, the Israeli leaders, and the world leaders to figure out a way to end this cycle of violence. And I think that is her legacy, and that is her message.
All right, Lynn Mitchell, it's been so powerful to hear these words coming from you tonight, and we so appreciate your voice. Thank you for joining us, and once again, we're so sorry for your loss.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you so much for having me and for remembering Vivian.
The October 7th attack started the Israel-Hamas war. Health officials in Gaza say that Israel's retaliatory campaign in Gaza has killed more than 41,000 Palestinians, just over half of them women and children. Right now, we're joined by Ola Alankar, a GTA resident with his family in Gaza. Okay, Ola, we're now a year into this. I do have to ask, where's your family? How are they doing?
Thank you for having me. It's a 1 year of daily struggle for us here at home. I'm among the less than 30% of families in Gaza who were not displaced amid the Nakba in 1948 or the Naksa in 1967. My family simply chose to remain in their indigenous land. My grandfather was killed in 1952 when he was resisting the occupation. So this has not started last year. To this date, I have lost more than 80 family members, including my first cousin and her 2 young children. She was my little sister. She was only 34. I also lost my cousin's wife, whose husband, she's shown in the picture, whose husband, my own cousin, had been abducted by the Israeli forces and dehumanized in front of his own children. The last we heard that he's imprisoned in dire conditions with broken ribs and beaten all over. And there are more than 10 people of my direct family members who we do not know of or their whereabouts, and we simply can't reach any solution. I still have so many family members in Gaza in severe conditions of malnutrition, no shelter, and what came to be known by the human rights organizations as the largest extermination camp under our own eyes. It's no longer about quick fixes or even temporary ceasefire today when we talk. It's, I think, about addressing the real issue that we have been watching cause decades of suffering for so many families in Canada, in Toronto, at home, that their issues haven't been even addressed or spoken of.
Ola, just a few minutes ago, you said you lost 80 family members in Gaza. Can you tell us more about their stories? You've shared photos of loved ones, family members. What do you want people to know about their stories?
Only in September, some of the pictures that I maybe shared, I don't know if they will be displayed. It shows how happy they were. They were happy, settled with whatever conditions they were, despite the siege, despite the scarcity of resources. And since for us today, our kids are not safe. My own kids are afraid. They feel unsafe in their schools, in their environment. Since October 7, we have seen only attempts to suppress Canadian Palestinians and pro-Palestinians voices, and a huge raise in anti-Palestinian racism and Islamophobia in Canada. Today, you're asking me, how do I feel? My question is, as a Canadian, how Canada's silence and complicity have allowed for the prosecution of many Palestinians for far too long, and claiming support while actually enabling an ongoing oppression. It is hypocritical. It makes us feel sad, safe. We check on them. We call them to check how are they doing. But the only answer is that we are still alive. But until when? Today, as Canadians, we all need to raise the question of our values. When our own government supports such a regime, are we genuinely enjoying our freedom of speech? Are we really enjoying our Canadian shared values that we brag about? When we genuinely see a major university uses the law to strip students, I'm one of them, from the fundamental right to express their opinion, and another one welcomes and celebrates members who served in the IDF. These same soldiers who we've seen online obliterating universities, residential buildings, whole neighborhoods. My own neighborhood in Gaza was completely decimated. My own the family house, the memories, the pictures, they're all gone. And these soldiers ended up dancing in front of cameras and sharing their videos in TikTok and social media. I asked this question, where is accountability? How can I teach my kids about democracy or freedom of speech when I myself don't feel safe at home?
Okay. Ola, thank you for sharing your perspective tonight, and we are so sorry for your losses.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
It's 5:16, 16 degrees. This is Live at 5.
We are live at Yonge and Empress Avenue tonight, where shots were fired at a vehicle in an apparent road rage incident today. We're giving you a live shot of that crime scene. Stay with us for more.
A wild scene in North York this morning. This as an apparent case of road rage that leads to gunfire, as well as a car flipping over during a crash.
Yeah, a lot happened. And to help us understand what happened, let's bring in CP24's Andrew Brunnan, who joins us live from the scene with the details. Andrew, get us up to speed. What went on?
Oh, according to police, not just a case of apparent road rage, but when you're talking about a gun being fired on Canada's longest street, right beside North York. The vehicle, by the way, as we get to the latest here, the one that had flipped over, we have images of those, I know, that we can show you here. But the street is going to be reopened very soon. There's 3 different crime scenes that are, according to police, attached to this apparent road rage and shooting. And we should say no one was actually hit by bullets, but again, very busy scene, very busy location. Here is Toronto Police explaining what went down here on Yonge Street beside Mel Lastman Square.
An occupant in the black pickup actually shot at the Kia motor vehicle. Subsequent to that, the Kia traveled southbound on Yonge Street to where we see behind me here, and is at that time that the Kia was involved in a collision. It flipped over and was followed by the black pickup truck. An occupant in that black pickup truck got out and shot at the Kia motor vehicle. After that, they fled southbound.
And police are still on the hunt for the man driving that black Dodge Ram pickup truck. We got an update from Toronto Police a few minutes ago. The 2 other scenes implicated as part of this crime have been reopened. That's further up Yonge Street and then on Willowdale off on the side street. This looks like it should be reopening within the hour. We've seen the vehicle be taken away by Toronto Police and the tow truck. They're doing the last bits of cleanup here, but there's a lot of glass and metal for them to pick up off of the ground. And again, a frightening thing to happen when you think about it. An apparent road rage incident involving a gun and shots fired on Canada's longest street. Back to you both.
All right, Andrew Brennan reporting live tonight. Thank you so much, Andrew. It is now 5:21, 16 degrees. This is Live at 5.
The Leafs have announced their opening night roster. We're going to tell you who made the cut next.
Welcome back. The Leafs are set to begin the regular season on Wednesday. And ahead of that, they've made some moves and announced their opening night roster.
Okay, right now let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins with all the details. Phil.
Bakari, yeah, no major moves here. I think maybe the biggest loss potentially, Tyler Bertuzzi going to play with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was one of the fan favorites. I liked what he did with the team last year, but it's still the same big dogs making all the big bucks. Austin Matthews, he's your new captain. Mitch Marner still on the team. Willie Nylander, John Tavares, Nick Robertson. Keep an eye on him. He had 5 goals during preseason, but that's preseason. Let's see what he does once the regular season starts on Wednesday night in Montreal. But GM Brad Treliving had to do some fine tuning. They had 23 roster spots to fill, around $88 million in terms of their budget. They did so sign some veterans, some cup winners as well. Max Pacioretty, he's 35 years old, making just under $900,000. He's the former captain in Montreal, which is good to know. They're going to be going to Montreal Wednesday night, so he knows the place well, the Bell Center. And then you got Stephen Lawrence, big dude, 6'4", 220 from Kitchener-Waterloo, so you got that hometown incentive to perform for your team. He's making just under $800K. He's going to be a great penalty killer. And I think the biggest acquisition really is head coach Craig Berube. He's going to be putting in his mark on this team. He's won the Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues, and see what they can do to help this team advance in the postseason. Here's coach Ann Pacioretty.
We want to be playing sound hockey both defensively and doing things right offensively. I mean, I think you want to look at where your team is at, in 10 games. How's your penalty killing? How's your power play? How's the defensive side of things? Offensively, how are we scoring goals? How are they going in? There's all kinds of things you look at, but that stuff, it's all evaluated on a daily basis after every game. What we did good, what do we need to keep improving on, and we want to get that identity down.
At this stage of my career, the most important thing is winning, and I feel that this group has a chance to win. There's a lot of strong players, and you don't just want to be along for the ride. You want to contribute, and you want to help. And I feel like there are areas, some areas that I've played in my past that can help the team win, and some new roles and whatnot that can help the team win. And it's a new challenge for me, and I'm excited for that.
New challenge, but same expectations from Leafs Nation. Try to advance in the playoffs. Maybe try to go for it in the Cup. We'll see what happens. But yeah, puck drop Wednesday night against the Canadiens, and then the home opener on Saturday against former Leafs GM Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think I'm scheduled to be there. So give me your predictions.
Whatever you say, Phil.
Yes.
That's always the right answer, right?
I guess whatever you say. Just go get them. Pucks deep.
Okay.
Something like that.
First, I got to get tickets, but right now we'll do that later. It's 5:28, 16 degrees. This is Live at 5. Well,
we're live at Yonge and Empress Avenue tonight, where shots were fired at a vehicle in a road rage incident today. At least that's what police believe. We'll tell you more next.
Okay, check it out. An apparent act of road rage. 2 people are in hospital. This is after they were chased and shot before eventually crashing their car. It flipped over. We'll tell you what all happened.
We're live in North York tonight, where a vigil will be held to remember the victims of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel.
And the attack triggered the ongoing war in Gaza. We're also live at Queen's Park. This is where a pro-Palestinian rally is being held.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
I'm Bakari Savage. We're going to start with this. A wild scene in North York. It happened this morning as an apparent case of road rage. It led to gunfire and a car flipping during a crash.
CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us live from the scene with the details and the latest on this investigation to find the suspect. Andrew.
Yeah, Lena, Bakari, and just looking right now as the Toronto Fire Department is finished up with cleanup. I'm expecting to see the road reopen in a couple of minutes, but it's not about what happened now or what is happening now. It's what transpired around 10:45 this morning. According to police, there were 3 separate crime scenes as part of this suspected case of road rage. One further up Yonge Street at Willowdale and then off on the side street on Willowdale. Those, we have been told, have reopened, but here is where the vehicle flipped over. You won't be able to see much of it right now, but the sand that was placed down is essentially where the vehicle ended up on its hood, and there was mangled pieces of metal, there was plastic, there was bottles that came out of the car, there were bags, and all of it just strewn over the street because of how violent this was. According to police, they say that a driver of a black Dodge Ram pickup truck opened fire at another vehicle and the occupants inside, a man and woman inside that vehicle, that Kia that was ultimately flipped over here after also hitting a dump truck, we should mention as well. But that's not the end of the story, I should say. After the shots were fired from inside of the Dodge Ram pickup truck, police say the driver chased down the 2 people in the Kia, and here is where they got out of their pickup truck and again opened fire on the people inside. Thankfully, they were not hit by any bullets. But this is not only one of Toronto's busiest streets, this is also Canada's longest thoroughfare. It is known around the world. Yonge Street at one point was the longest street in the world. We're right in front of not only the North York Civic Centre, we're in front of the Mel Lastman Square. We're in front of, as well, the Toronto District School Board headquarters. There's a lot of people that are out here at any given time of day, and thankfully, nobody was hit by any of this gunfire. But police say, as they described it to us, it was a heinous act.
The police are actively looking for the suspects involved in this heinous crime. We are gathering evidence, but if the public sees this black pickup truck, it's a Dodge Ram pickup truck. It has extensive front end damage as well. It has a broken window. Call 911.
The yellow tape is being taken down by police as I'm speaking right now. I said before, I expect this part of Yonge Street to be reopened within minutes. But that being said, thinking of the fact that on Canada's longest street, in the middle of the day, someone seemingly so angry at another driver that they got out of their car and fired their gun at them. That is what police say transpired today here on Yonge Street. Back to you both.
Okay, CP24's Andrew Brennan, thank you. And a man's been charged with attempted murder following a stabbing at the Oakville GO Station. 23-year-old Matthew Valley of no fixed address was arrested near the scene. Police say the accused stabbed a woman in the back just before 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Investigators say Valley and the victim were not known to each other, and it is believed the attack was random. The woman was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. A Canadian billionaire Frank Stronach's sexual assault case is being moved to Toronto. Yeah, lawyers for the 92-year-old appeared in a Brampton courtroom today. He is facing 18 charges in alleged incidents dating back to the late 1970s. Prosecutors wanted the trial moved because many of the alleged assaults are tied to Toronto because of a lack of resources in Peel region. Well, the sexual assault trial of Toronto councillor Michael Thompson began today in Bracebridge. So Thompson accused of sexually assaulting 2 women at a luxury cottage in Muskoka on Canada Day weekend in 2022. So today, the Crown laid out its case to the court, alleging that Thompson invited several women to the long weekend getaway, which he billed as a networking event. And the Crown alleges that Thompson sexually massaged one woman against her will and, quote, forced himself upon another woman who woke up to find him standing over her after falling asleep drunk. Well, Thompson denies the charges and has pleaded not guilty. And the trial will continue Thursday. Well, vigils and commemorations are being held around the world today to mark 1 year since Israel was attacked by Hamas, triggering the war in Gaza. And here in Toronto, the UJA Federation is holding a memorial service tonight. CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live from North York with more. Melissa.
Yeah, Bakari, the name of tonight's ceremony is October 7, marking 1 year since that devastating massacre that carried out Hamas's attack on Israel, killing some 1,200 people, that saw some 250 people taken hostage. And still, those feelings so raw for so many, still an ongoing crisis, as more than 100 hostages still being held in Gaza today. Joining me now as we see those preparations continue for tonight's event is Israel's envoy on combating anti-Semitism. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know you're going to be taking part in tonight's ceremony. I wonder what your message is going to be.
Well, actually, the most important message that I think tonight, not just for Jews that will gather here in the Jewish community, but for all our allies that recognize that this is a moment of grief, solidarity, and commemoration of, as you said, the more than 1,200 people, men, women, children, Holocaust survivors, babies that were burned alive and raped and mutilated, and the 251 that were abducted on that day, of which 101 remain in Hamas captivity. It is also the recognition that Hamas, but one proxy of a murderous Islamic regime in Iran, alongside Hezbollah and the Houthis, have continued firing at Israel in a multi-front war since October the 8th. And that is very often not understood as this existential moment. It's not just October the 7th. It is the war that has been raging since, that has displaced 100,000 Israelis from their homes for a year, that has left, as you said, the families of the 101 hostages, that in the language of international law, their continued holding is a standing violation of international law, because every second of every minute of every hour of the 365 days they have been held continues to violate international law. And that the same anti-Semitism that fueled those atrocities and the multi-front attack on Israel, hell-bent to annihilate the state of Israel, as openly declared by all of those genocidal terror proxies and Iran that fired at Israel, both on April the 13th and just last week. In addition to that, the very same anti-Semitism has fueled a tsunami of anti-Semitism around the world, including right here in Canada. And if I had to say something to this community that stands here shocked, not just by what Hamas and other proxies of Iran have perpetrated, intent to annihilate Israel and murder Jews, but by the celebration of those attacks, by the silence of women's organizations, Me Too Unless You're a Jew, by the denial of those atrocities, by the justification, rape as armed resistance, as we've seen right here on campuses, on streets, online, and by the attack of Jews, so that children, university students, people in their workplaces are afraid right here in Canada. And really it is that tsunami of anti-Semitism that for me predicts what is not just a danger, an existential threat to the state of Israel, the nation state of the Jewish people, or to Jewish communities around the world, including here in Canada, but actually threatens Canada and its foundational principles. And that's why it was important for me to be here, having grown up in Canada myself, with a devastating understanding that this is an existential moment for our shared humanity, because October the 7th, just like 9/11, was an attack of barbarism on civilization. It sounds the sirens, or should sound the sirens, for our shared humanity and for all that cherish life and liberty and human dignity.
Thanks so much for that. That is Israel's special envoy on combating anti-Semitism. We do know that tonight's ceremony, even before it begins, we're going to be hearing music. We're going to be hearing the names of the victims read out loud, and we'll be bringing you more of that later on tonight.
All right, Melissa, thanks so much for this. Meantime, downtown, a pro-Palestinian rally is underway at Queen's Park, with a march expected to follow.
CP24 Steve Ryan is there and joins us live with more. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari, Alina, this demonstration started at 4 p.m. this afternoon on the south side of Queen's Park. Now, I have been told by one of the organizers that the rally itself will not take place until 6 p.m. Right now, as you can see, if I get out of the way, there are a lot of people holding Palestinian flags. There are some Lebanese flags in the crowd as well. And these people are just giving others a chance to get home from work or arrive at this location, and then once 6 o'clock hits, they're going to start their demonstration. Now, on the other side of where we are right now, on the east side, there are plenty of pro-Israeli demonstrators. And at some point within the last hour, the police had to get involved, and we had the public order unit were facing the pro-Israeli demonstrators. You can probably see from the chopper that's just above us, and then the officers on bicycles faced the pro-Palestinian demonstrators, and the words being exchanged back and forth, but the police did a very good job of keeping both groups separate. We did speak with one of the organizers earlier on this afternoon, and here is some of what he told me. Let's have a listen.
We respect the system that we live in, and as Canadians, we know that we have given rights to express and voice out. This is why we're here practicing our the second charter to freedom of expression and belief. So this is why we are speaking up and spreading this word for everybody else across the globe that cannot actually speak up.
At 6 o'clock, I am told that this large crowd will head south on University Avenue, and at some point, I am told that they're going to make their way over to Nathan Phillips Square. This demonstration will be led by two pickup trucks who are just to the west of us. They both have got big speakers on the back of them, two big Palestinian flags as well. The police are standing by here, and this will take place at 6 o'clock. I will say that there is a significant police presence both on Queen's Park itself and around the area as well. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Steve, thanks so much for this. Well, 24-year-old Romy Gonen is among those being held by Hamas in Gaza. Gonen was attending the Nova Music Festival when she was shot and wounded and abducted by militants. Her family has not stopped working to get her free. Romy's cousin, Maureen Lashem, joined us live to talk about how that family is coping.
I think that right now everyone is just in survival mode. I heard a term, emotional whiplash, and that's exactly what it's felt like. On the one hand, we have our incredible community that comes together, and even people in the Christian community and Iranian community and Hindu community that have come to support us, and that holds us. And then on the other hand, you're dealing with the hateful rhetoric, the violence, the people pulling down posters of innocent kidnapped people.
And we spoke with Dalia El Farah, a Palestinian woman with family in Gaza, about what the last year has been like in the besieged territory.
Most of my extended family is in Khan Yunis, Al-Mawasi area, or have evacuated to Rafah. My children also have family in the north of Gaza. And it's really, really hard to articulate just how they're doing, because it's been a horrific nightmare year for everyone. Food is scarce, water is scarce, no medical supplies get in. Most of them have had to relocate multiple times.
Dozens of students at John Fraser Secondary School in Mississauga, they held a walkout in support of the Palestinian people this afternoon. They stood along Aaron Center Boulevard near Glen Aaron Drive, chanting with flags to show their solidarity with the Palestinian people as the Israel-Hamas war reaches the one-year mark.
There's a lot of violence happening in our country as of right now, and we believe that our voices aren't heard to the level that they deserve to be, and we believe that people are only hearing one side of the story. People are not able to reach all of the facts that we are, and that's why we're here. We're here to spread awareness, and we're here to make our voices as loud as possible.
We've had hundreds of thousands of deaths, over 17,000 killed, from children, innocent women, civilians. It's not a war. This is just civilians being killed, and there's no defense, no army to defend the country. And yeah, that's why we're all protesting.
And Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly renewed Canada's calls for the release of Israeli hostages and said she believes peace and security can be achieved in the Middle East.
It's been a year and innocent people are still being held hostage by Hamas. Canada will not stop calling for the immediate release of all hostages. This includes returning the bodies of those brutally killed while they were in captivity.
A year after the attack on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza, efforts to find peace also continue.
And for more on that, we are joined live tonight by Avi Meyerstein, the founder and president of the Alliance for Middle East Peace, which is a network of Israeli and Palestinian peace builders. Avi, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. Here we are a year later, no end in sight to this conflict. In fact, the war has now expanded in the region. How do you and your team try to promote peace, dialogue, and mutual security as this war rages on?
Well, thank you for having me on this very solemn day that really marks the beginning of many solemn days and weeks. I think it really begins by us recognizing our mutual pain. We have a team and we have a network of thousands of Israelis and Palestinians who know that it's a false choice, it's a false binary to say that it's either them or us, but that actually we can be with each other and recognize the pain and suffering that has occurred on all sides of this conflict this last year. It's certainly not easy, but we do see that there are voices of reason that are beginning to take root. I was in the region just last week and had conversations with an Israeli mother who asked me very thoughtfully, can we ever have peace here? Do the people on the other side, are there good people there? And the next day I sat with a Palestinian colleague who told me that she had the same exact conversation with her teenage son, asking the same questions. And those questions are heartbreaking, but they also show a tentative opening. People are asking questions that they didn't before about the status quo that has lingered for a long time that brought us to this moment. And that creates an opportunity. And we're seeing the programs on the ground. As you said, we have a network. It's over 160 organizations and tens of thousands of people who are mobilizing, who are rolling up their sleeves and working side by side to bring 300 aid trucks to Gaza. I sat a week and a half ago with a trauma surgeon who works with hundreds of trauma surgeons in all the hospitals in the West Bank and in Israel who consult each other when they're dealing with the awful effects of this war. And we see in Israel in recent weeks, 750,000 people in the streets who are calling for a hostage deal and a ceasefire. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing those openings, and there are things we can do to actually move this forward. Of course, sealing the deal and getting the hostages out alive and getting a ceasefire in place is critical so that we stop escalating this moment and we can start focusing on the future. But then we can actually institutionalize and scale this work. We have so many people engaged. We know what works, but we are facing a tsunami of fear and trauma and pain. And in order to confront that, we really need to be mobilizing and getting the word out by the thousands of people. And then finally, we need to connect it with a diplomatic horizon, because you need to build that base, that foundation of support from the ground up. But you also need to show people that there is a plan, that there is an exit, that there's a path forward. When we combine those things, we can actually get to a place that we've never been in this conflict. I've heard so many people on both sides asking the critical question, which is what we focus our energies on. Do I have a partner? And we know that those partners are there. We know those partners can be built. And what we see over time is when Israelis and Palestinians see that they have a partner, they're willing to do almost anything for peace.
Okay. Wow. Avi Meyerstein, founder and president of the Alliance for Middle East Peace, which is a network of Israeli and Palestinian peace builders. Thank you.
Avi, thanks so much for your time. It is 5:50, 16 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
This is the first day of Mental Illness Awareness Week in Ontario. And coming up, we're going to have details on the province expanding access to a mental health support program.
Welcome back. The province is partnering with the Center for Addiction and Mental Health to expand access to the Early Psychosis Intervention Program.
The EPI program helps diagnose psychosis early, and it provides timely access to individually tailored and age-appropriate treatment. It also provides education and support to family members of patients who are part of the program.
The Early Psychosis Intervention, or EPI, program works to identify early psychosis in those aged 14 through to 35, to provide them with timely, individually tailored, and age-appropriate treatment to support symptomatic and functional recovery, such as returning to school, to work, and building social relationships.
And today's announcement comes on the first day of Mental Illness Awareness Week in Ontario.
It's 5:54, 16 degrees. Let's get a check on the commute with traffic specialist Heather Sheeman. Heather.
Well, it's still a busy drive out there, a lot of volume. Let's go straight to the cameras. Ongoing issues on the southbound 410 ramp to the eastbound 401, still fully blocked after several hours. It's a no-go zone. They're doing some emergency road work there. Just want to jump to this camera. Eastbound Gardner before Jameson, a stalled bus blocking a live lane. It is the center lane. Another bus arrived, and they escorted the passengers safely to a new bus. So police cruiser has left the scene, but the stalled bus is still blocking that center lane, so do drive carefully. Slow down as you approach. This is the eastbound Gardner just before Jameson. Westbound Gardner, that continues jamming up from about Jarvis to west of Bathurst. And off the major routes, we still have that police investigation. Southbound lanes of Yonge Street closed between Empress to Elmwood. That's it for traffic. Back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
It is 5:55, 16 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Taylor Swift's coming to town next month, but it appears to be a stressful time for some of her fans hoping to attend her shows. More on this next. Okay, Taylor Swift is coming to town next month. It appears to be a bit of a stressful time for some of her fans hoping to attend her shows. So some of her biggest fans are saying that their concert tickets have been stolen. CTV has spoken to a few of them. They say their tickets have been taken directly out of their online accounts, or they received a message from Ticketmaster saying that their tickets were being transferred.
I get an email saying my tickets are being transferred. Like it's a pending approval. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? And then like instantly after that email, I get another one saying that it was approved, that the transfer was approved. And I checked my email and it just said someone had claimed my tickets. And once someone claims your tickets, I can no longer access my own tickets anymore via my app. So it was very quick and I didn't have enough time to stop anything.
Now, CTV News reached out to Ticketmaster for comment on this, which said, we'll have someone look into this and reach out to the fan. We'll follow up as soon as we have more information. I'm sure that's going to have a lot of Swifties pretty stressed.
It's 5:59, 16 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thank you so much for watching and joining us. CTV News at 6 is coming up next.